Hey guys, welcome back to the Drone Files, and today I'm pretty excited because finally I bought myself a DJI Spark, and after saving up for quite some time I purchased one recently, and this is the Fly More combo, the Spark Fly More combo, which comes with the extra battery and other stuff like the long range transmitter. And I also purchased an extra battery here, which makes it 3 batteries for my package. So let's go ahead and unbox it. Okay, I guess the Spark is in here. This must be the carrying case. There it is, the DJI Spark. Okay, so here it is. This is what you get for the DJI Spark Fly More combo. You get the Spark itself, the long range transmitter, a carrying bag, sling bag, and these are the two pairs of extra propellers. And this is a foam carrying case, a protective case for the Spark, and some accessories inside, and some user manuals, an extra battery, the charging station which takes up to 3 batteries, and the power adapter and all that, and a set of prop guards. So all this is what you get with the Fly More combo. Okay, so I've done several weeks of flying with the Spark. I've done a few dozen flights with it, and I must say that I'm pretty impressed with the Spark. It is a lot more impressive than I initially expected. As you can see here, I've not crashed it once. The propellers are still the original ones that came with it, and not even any damage on the props, because the Spark is basically pretty reliable and a very dependable product drone to fly. It is of course not perfect, and there are flaws on the Spark, but let's begin with the things that I like about it. Now, the Spark may have the size and look of a toy drone, but it is far from being one. It has a very good build quality, and it has the same type of premium feel that you get with other DJI products. There's one exception though, and that's the battery locking mechanism at the back on the battery itself and on the drone. As you can see here, the battery and the power button are integrated, and the battery itself latches onto the drone via 2 very small latches here. I'm not sure if you can see it, and according to some owners, I don't have this problem with my Spark, but there are some owners that say that their batteries actually pop out when they are flying the drone, and that actually cause their Sparks to crash. And I feel that the mechanism is a little bit tiny, and it may wear off easily, and if there are manufacturing defects, certain units may have latches that are not exactly very secure. So if you're flying a Spark, make sure that once you've installed the battery, make sure you double check to make sure that it doesn't slide up backwards. So I have 3 batteries, and none of them have that issue, fortunately. One thing I like about the Spark is the micro USB port at the back, which you can use to charge it on the go. Over here you also have the slot for the micro SD card. So it is possible to charge the Spark using a normal micro USB cable, the kind that you use for smartphones while you're traveling. Another thing I like about the Spark is its flight performance. It is very stable in the air, it has adequate propulsion, and handles itself pretty well even in windy conditions, although not as good as the bigger DJI drones. As you can see here, the propellers, when you align them along the fuselage, is about 2 millimeters apart from each other, the tips here. So this means DJI basically put the largest possible propeller that they can on this drone, and the largest possible motors, and they also given it a pretty big battery. Overall weight is about 300 grams, and that means the Spark has a very good propulsion to weight ratio, and which is why it handles itself very well in the air. And it's really nice to fly, especially when you have GPS reception and also VPS on, vision positioning system. And when these 2 systems are on, the Spark just holds its position very well. It's very stable. There are also 2 forward-facing sensors here that do a very good job in detecting obstacles in the front, and this includes objects such as walls, trees. It, however, has issues detecting stuff like power lines or very fine tree branches. So if you're flying in those kind of areas that have obstacles like that, you need to be careful a bit. One thing that really sets the Spark apart from its rivals is its intelligent flight modes, and the Spark has plenty of such flight modes. These modes are available on the DJI Go 4 app and cannot be accessed on the remote directly. So you need to connect your smartphone to the remote before you can use those smart features. I've tested all these features and they are very reliable, and certainly such automated features like circle or helix and other features such as drone, they are all pretty accurate and certainly a lot better than doing them manually. At least for my level of flying experience, and I just couldn't replicate the aerial maneuvers that the Spark is capable of doing automatically. One feature that's missing on the Spark is waypoint navigation, and for that you need to install third-party apps on your smartphone such as Autopilot, which allows you to use waypoint navigation with the Spark. Another interesting feature on the Spark is gesture control, which allows you to pilot the Spark using your hand gestures, just your palm alone. And I've tested these features and I find them to be reasonably reliable, although sometimes they don't work. And these features need you to be in good lighting situations where the camera can see your palm clearly. If you're doing it in low light or at night, it just wouldn't work. And I find that the biggest flaw on the Spark is its gesture control. I find that gesture control may sometimes fail even under broad daylight, so gesture control is a bit of a hit and miss. So do bear that in mind if you plan to fly the Spark solely using gesture control, because sometimes it can just fail, and if you do not have a transmitter around to control it, to bring it down, then you're probably find yourself in a difficult situation. There have been a few times when I was flying the Spark and it basically strayed a bit in the altitude and went up a bit, about 2 to 3 meters from the ground away from my reach, and I was unable to actually bring it down until I turned on the RC, the remote control, to bring it down. So if you're flying exclusively with gesture control, be sure that you are in the ideal conditions with good lighting and all that, and make sure that you're comfortable with gesture control, you're familiar with it. Otherwise you might find yourself in a very sticky situation where you cannot get your Spark to get down to land if it has straight up a few meters. And if that happens, what you can do is you just wait for the battery to run out and it will just land automatically. But then again, that would be a bit inconvenient, especially if you're in a public place with people around. Two key features on the Spark are the GPS and VPS, which do a great job in positioning the drone. I find that these two features are very reliable in all kinds of flying conditions. So far they've not failed me. Return home is reasonably accurate, and the Spark usually flies to within 1 meter or 2 meters of its original home point. The Spark comes with a 2-axis camera gimbal system. So there is a stabilization on the roll axis like this, and on the y-axis, which is the pitch here. There are also rubber dampers that hold the gimbal to the drone itself, as you can see here, which does a great job in dampening motor vibrations and all that. Overall, the camera gimbal systems does a very decent job, although it doesn't stabilize on the yaw axis or this rotation axis. And what I find is that even in windy conditions, the Spark does a pretty good job when it comes to taking videos. And so far overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the camera. The sensor on the Spark is very similar to what you get on smartphones these days, such as the iPhone 7. So basically what you're having is like flying a camera drone with a smartphone camera. And it does a pretty decent job in daylight conditions, but when it's in low light, you will start to get grainy images and video. The camera has a focal length of 25mm, which means you do not have that ultra wide angle effect, which has that fisheye effect on it. So the video is pretty good, very low in distortion. Image quality is pretty decent as well, as you can see from the videos that I'm gonna insert here. Now let's talk about the remote controller that comes with the Fly More combo. If you want stable flight performance or control performance on the Spark, I suggest getting the remote controller. This can give you a maximum control range of about 2 kilometers under ideal conditions, and the controller is pretty good. Has a pretty good ergonomics, pretty nice design. I feel that the battery power on the controller itself is the limiting factor on the Spark, because although you might be able to carry 5 or 6 batteries along with you, what happens is the battery power on the remote controller is the one that limits your flight. So if you run out of battery on the controller, you won't be able to continue your flight no matter how many batteries you have. The only thing that you can do when the battery runs low is to just stop your flights and just charge the remote controllers. The remote controller fits common smartphone sizes that you can find in the market these days. And when you fold it down, it is actually pretty compact. You can even store it in your pocket. That is how small it is. Build quality on this thing is superb, just like any other DJI product. It has great ergonomics, and one thing you need to know when flying the Spark is the radio frequency that you use to control the drone. That is the 2.4 gigahertz frequency or the 5.8 gigahertz frequency. And if you are in an area which has a lot of commercial buildings or residential buildings, you are more likely to have 2.4 gigahertz interference. So it will be a good idea to switch to 5.8 gigahertz in such situations. I find that when I fly near a shopping mall, for example, about 200-300 meters from a shopping mall, I get a lot of 2.4 gigahertz interference, and I tend to get a lot of signal loss when flying, and it's not really safe to do that if you're flying in such areas, to use 2.4. And what I found out is that if you switch to 5.8 gigahertz, you hardly get any signal loss in such areas. So do read up on the differences between 2.4 and 5.8, so you know what to do when you're in such situations when you have too much radio transmitters nearby. Now let's talk about the DJI Go 4 app. The DJI Go app is where you control all the advanced features of the Spark and other DJI drones. And in the past, the app has been a bit buggy, but so far I've tested the app with the Spark, and it has not been very disappointing. There are a few issues. For example, I keep getting disconnected from the remote controller, and sometimes the quick shot modes do not work for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe because it's on my Android. Maybe it's there's some issue with the operating system. So I'm not too sure about that. But overall, the app is pretty well designed, and I find that the user interface is very well organized. So to conclude my review of the Spark, I would say the Spark is overall a very good selfie drone. It is not perfect. It has some issues with the gesture control feature, which sometimes doesn't work, and it has short flight times. The battery lasts about 15 minutes only. So you'll probably need about at least 3 batteries if you really want to get the best out of the Spark. It has excellent build quality, and it is a drone that I would recommend anyone who is looking for a decently good selfie drone to capture their family vacation, their sports events and stuff like that. It's also very affordable because the base version costs less than 400 if I'm not mistaken. And the Fly More combo costs, I think, below 700. So it's a pretty good deal for a selfie drone that has a very good build quality, good intelligent flight features, and it's also very, very reliable. So if you're going to spend some money, a few $100s on this a selfie drone, the Spark is a good choice. So that's it for my review of the DJI Spark. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, please post them on the comment section below. Please give the thumbs up for this video if you've liked it, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more future videos like this. So till the next video, I'll see you again. Goodbye.